You're listening to Live and Direct with Hannah, and it's International Women's Day, and I'm here with business owner, podcast creator, all around mega babe, Isabelle.
Hi.
How are you, Isabelle?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm really good.
Good.
So it's International Women's Day today, and I just wanted to chat to you because I've been seeing your content on my feed, and I just think you're a business owner too. You have a lot to share. You're a woman. It's International Women's Day. So I just wanted to start with your journey and how you started and how you went about creating your business.
So I started Image Gang. It'll be 5 years. It'll be 5 years this July since I started Image Gang. Yeah. I started when I was 27, and I was working a 9 to 5. I was working in like a very kind of corporate. It was logistics, very male dominated. Like I think there were 3 women, hella misogyny, hella inappropriate comments, hella low-key racism. And I was kind of in this job. Things hadn't been going very well for me, like in my mid-20s, and I'd kind of got this job just as a kind of
like a filler job.
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't know what it was filling. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know where I was heading, but I needed money in it. So I got this job. But while I was there, I was good. I was good at what I was doing. I was doing marketing, and I was good. And it kind of was restoring a lot of the confidence that I'd lost from things that happened. And I was kind of like, you know, this wage that they're telling me that is what I'm worth isn't cutting it for me. Like I've always been living beyond my means, and it just got to a point where I was like, how can you tell me what my talent and what my skills are worth? So I decided that I wanted to start a business. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I didn't really care what I did. I didn't really have the confidence to be, because, you know, when you start off, if I was to do clothing, I was going to have to model it myself and be in plus size. I was like, I haven't really got the confidence to do that at the age that I was at. And also I couldn't really afford to be going up to the site to even my own size, because it's like if you do clothing, you've got to start at an 8, and for me to be fit, I would have to go up to an 18. And it's like I didn't have enough money to invest in a full size run like that. Couldn't then be selling clothes that I couldn't even wear myself. So I was like, well, the other like option was accessories. And I'd always loved jewelry, obviously, like growing up, and like the jewelry that I sell now is very like heavily influenced by the jewelry that I wore then. So yeah, jewelry made sense logistically, physically. There wasn't a huge investment. I started with like £200.
Whoa.
I sold like some bags and shit that I had, and then started. Yeah, just built a website. I faked it. I made out like it was like an official collaboration between Image Gang and Playboy, because I'd bought some Playboy dead stock off eBay.
Oh.
So I right click saved off Google some Playboy images, put my logo on it, made it seem like it was an official collaboration. This is gonna probably get me arrested. But you got to fake it till you make it.
You do.
And then launched the website, and I bought these necklaces. I thought I bought them for £2.50 each, selling them for £15. And then eventually, once I got some money in, then I started being able to afford to do my own designs. And then
that's crazy.
History. Here we are.
It is like believing, because like social media and websites and everything, it's all about perception, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
So
no one knew what was going on, and I think people even now, like people would think it's probably a lot bigger than it is. Like it's me still. I have one person that works for me. But you know, when you see a brand on in Selfridges, or you see them on ASOS, you assume it's this big thing, and actually, it's not. Which is it's a good and a bad thing, because it's like people then, I think the expectation of you is high, because they think this brand is like this big brand and it's known all over the world, but actually it's just you. But at the same time, being just you is a good thing, because it means that you're still kind of free to do what you want.
Yeah. Your podcast is hilarious, and you talk about how having a business is not really what it's cracked up to be. But do you ever have like a pinch me moment, like I actually did this, I've like funded my own life, and I don't need to be paid by like the man or whatever, like I am?
I think no, not to be honest, you don't, because you're just so in it.
Yeah.
Like even at Selfridges, I think obviously there were moments where it would be like, oh my god, like I'm gonna be in Selfridges, like that's insane, and that's kind of like more than I ever dreamed of for Image Gang. But I think a lot of women who are in business, especially now in the last kind of few years, have got into it, especially in this kind of social media age. We've been tricked. We've been tricked by #girl boss, and it's difficult. It's really difficult. And you know, sometimes I don't want to have to wake up and make all the decisions, and I don't want to come and talk about you know, how inspiring other people find me or things like, because actually I'm struggling.
Yeah.
And it's, but you can't struggle. You're not allowed to. You're not allowed to talk about that because you're the living embodiment of success. And like people will say that they look to you for inspiration, but it's actually like, if you knew really what was going on, it's not for the faint-hearted at all. Like it's hard.
Because you have like no days off.
No, I haven't had a day off in 5 years.
Yeah, and you don't have paid holiday. You don't have...
No, and if I worked out what I paid myself, I'm paying myself less than minimum wage, really. For the hours that I put into it, I'm earning less than anyone. But, you know, on the flip side of that, I don't answer to anyone. I can go where I want. I can do what I want. I make all the decisions. But that's not for everyone, you know. And it's not every day that you want to be living that lifestyle. Sometimes, you want someone to come in and tell you what to do, or you want someone to take the burden off. But... you know, I wouldn't change it for the world, but you've just got to be realistic to what it is, because you know you've got Molly May doing...
I know, Molly May.
Did you see that catwalk that she did?
Yeah, but also I was just thinking as well, like seeing Twitter, and she is not the owner of PLT. Like people,
she's not.
People are coming for the wrong person though. The owner of PLT, he's never like crucified.
He's a knob.
He is a knob too, but yeah,
he's a big knob.
Molly May's also like problematic as fuck in her own way.
She's problematic as fuck. She's representing an awful business, a terrible business, and she is, you know, she's perpetuating this idea of what a girl boss is. She signed a 1-year contract to be the face of PLT. She's not, you know, no one's coming to her asking about the bottom line, about, well, how much profit we're making.
Yeah.
Where's the tax getting paid from?
Yeah, exactly.
She's not dealing with the VAT. She's not dealing with the corporation tax. She's not dealing with customer complaints. She's not dealing with employees, which is what actually
is what a business
owner that's what the real life is. That's not what Molly May's doing.
Yeah. Also, creative director, like, no, she's just a puppet for PLT right now.
Yeah.
That's interesting, because I feel like girl boss is, we're seeing like the negative sides of like girl boss, and it's actually not this like beautiful picture that is painted to be on social media by people like Molly May.
The thing is as well, what I find is that what happens with this whole girl boss thing is we're being encouraged to ultimately operate in a male space and operate in our masculinity.
Yeah.
And in doing that, we step into these spaces and they're not made for us.
No.
These spaces are not made for women. They're boys clubs.
Yeah.
And we're being pushed into them and like, come in. Like it's not safe.
No.
It's not made for us, and you're gonna be taken advantage of. You're gonna be sexualized. You're gonna be
made to feel like you're not meant to be there.
You don't know what you're doing. Yeah, you're made to feel stupid because we're being drawn into these spaces that actually they're still not ready for us, and they're not made for us because they're ultimately
controlled by men.
They're male spaces, and it's like until there's been enough time has passed that actually these spaces have been made by women for women.
Yeah.
And until then you're gonna struggle.
Yeah, it's hard out here, man. It's hard out here for like women trying to be progressive and trying to like infiltrate these spaces.
We're just we're redecorating an old building, basically. That's what it is. And it's like what we need to do is tear it down and rebuild it.
Yeah,
that's what needs to happen.
We're tokens in a way. We're just like, we represent a new part of society that people want to be represented by, but it's not tailored for us. No. It's tailored for the man, which sucks. Like, yeah, like these TikToks, I always see that like this is how men email. Like women, when they email, they always want to be like, I can't come across as like aggy or like a bitch.
Did a post. I did the feminine urge to put a smiley face after you've slightly assert yourself on an email. Or exclamation mark. Yeah.
Or like sorry, or like when it's not your fault, like why are you apologizing?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard, and I work in a male-dominated industry, and every day I see how like me and my counterparts are treated. It's fucked up. It's still a long way to go.
Yeah, a long way to go, definitely. And I think it's you know, it's not me moaning. I'm not moaning, but it's being real and acknowledging that we're not there yet. Yeah. We're really, really not there yet, and there's no point pretending that we are, because I don't want any other young women going into this with the naivety that I did of thinking, oh well, if I'm my own boss, then like no, I don't have to answer to anyone. But you always have to answer to someone ultimately. And you know, whether it's a supplier or another, like a wholesale customer that you might get, ultimately you're answering to other people and at the hands of them. And without the experience or the dick between your legs, unfortunately, you're gonna come across problems.
Yeah, not to be like a male hater right now, but what is it about? Like, is it like men being like just they feel threatened by us, or like I don't know. It's just like
I think it's because they want to fuck us.
they want to fuck us, and we don't want to fuck them, and they're like,
I think
fuck's sake.
when you walk into a room of men, at least one of them's probably thinking they want to bang you, and that's going to be then clouding their judgment when you're there. You're not there to bang.
No, you're
I'm there to work.
Yeah,
I'm here to work, but one of you probably wants to have sex with me, and like that's probably going to that's at some point going to cause a problem.
Because I don't want to have sex with you. And that's
yeah,
cool.
I don't want to have sex with you. Like so many guys will like be in my DMs being like, oh, I want a ring. I'm like, no, you don't. You don't want a ring, do you? And you go along with it because it's like, well, maybe I'm going to get some money out of them. But then but you know, and there's, you know, and as women, I think the chances of that changing and men wanting to have sex with women isn't going anywhere. So, you know, operate from a place of control and be like, use it to your advantage. As long as you're safe. Take advantage of the fact that men like are powerless to you. If you know, like, use your sexuality, use your beauty, use your intelligence to outsmart these men and play them at their own fucking game. Yeah. Because there's not going to change at the end of the day. And it's like, if I have to go into a meeting knowing that I'm probably going to get a better outcome because I've got my tits out, I'm going to do it. And I don't care what anyone thinks about that. I'm going to play the game.
You're just using your resources.
Exactly. Use what's in the room. Yeah. Use what's in your bra.
Use it. Take power.
Yeah, take back control, man. Yeah, like, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. One thing you talk about on your podcast as well is the trauma that mixed race people face, and the way you put it is really funny. When I was listening to it, it really sparked a nerve because I'm half French, half Indian. I was born in France. I moved to the UK when I was 7. My parents divorced. I live with my mum and she's Indian. But I remember at school, just like, I went to like a girls' school that was predominantly like Muslim girls and like girls whose parents didn't want them to mix with boys, basically. And I'd always like say, people would ask me like, where are you from? And I'd always say like, oh, I'm French and Indian, but I'm more French, because being Indian was like not cool. Like if you stank a curry was not cool. Like it was a whole stereotypical thing. My grandma used to make samosas. I used to go to her house every day after school. She'd make samosas, make fried food. I used to stink out my uniform, and I used to shout at her and be like, you're stinking out my uniform, like I've got to go home and put it outside, like wash it. And now I'm like, fuck, my grandma was the most like amazing person in the world. Like, why did I ever reject her? Why did I reject part of me? Because now I'm like, I'm French and Indian. That's fucking cool. And I'm equally half both those like heritages, and I respect them both. And I lived in France, but it just like, it just growing up and being mixed and being like, which part defines me the most, and who do I relate to the most? And like, my parents divorced, so it was quite easy for me to choose the side. The experience of a mixed race person is never really that explained that well, and it's so different for some people.
It's not. And I think the thing is, you know, when you're saying about which side you lean into, I don't think that you have to choose at any time. And it's like, you know, one of the privileges of being mixed, and I truly believe that being mixed, I mean, I think being of any ethnicity is a privilege.
It like makes just
being able to you know, experience 2 cultures in one lifetime. I think that's an amazing thing, and I know it's not something that everyone gets to do. So I value that. But I think at any time you get to choose, and that's your prerogative. You know, as a mixed race person, I can choose to lean into my African side. I can choose to be Senegalese when I want to be, and I can choose to be white when I want to, not white obviously, but my British side. Yeah. And I think that there shouldn't have to be any rules to that. And I think as long as you acknowledge the privilege of that, and that, you know, unfortunately society does seem to deem people of lighter tones, so usually mixed people, to be, you know, we have more favorability in terms of beauty standards and things like that, and recognizing that, I don't think that there's a problem with then discussing the mixed race experience, because it's not I recognize that there are women who are more subjugated to beauty standards than I am. I recognize that. And then the intersectionality of being light skinned, being plus size, but being of a plus size that is, again, I can still shop in mainstream shops. So I recognize all of that, but at the same time, it is an experience, and it does need to be spoken about. And I think, growing up, like, I was moved to an all-white school at 14.
In London or outside London?
Outside of London, in Essex. It was hell.
That sounds like hell.
It was hell. And I was really lucky that I never experienced, no one overtly racially abused me, ever. But it was just more for my own self-identity. Boys never fancied me. That was more of the thing, because it wasn't cool. Black wasn't attractive. Like, Rihanna was just coming up when I was at school. Do you know what I mean? Like, she was the first kind of, you know, we had Destiny's Child. obviously we have more, but I'm talking about in Essex, like who was on the front cover of Smash Hits magazine, basically. You know, we had Destiny's Child sometimes, but it was like Rihanna. I remember Rihanna was just coming up, and it was that boys were like, oh, like black girls are kind of bang, but white boys never thought that before because they'd never seen them.
Yeah.
Like the only black person they'd seen was that black woman that used to do the news, Maura Stewart. Like I think that was the only black woman they'd ever really seen before, and it was like it wasn't a daily thing. So for me, growing up, I was never had any attention from boys. I was always like the friend, and that's cool because now I have an amazing relationship, like lots of male friends. But there is a trauma from that, you know, because we're all beautiful, and not recognizing that until later in life is a waste almost, because you should know that from day, like we're all beautiful, and especially as women, we need to be reminded of that. And I think it's traumatic. It's definitely traumatic, and I would never do that to my child. And you know, it wasn't through choice that it happened. There's things that happened in my life that meant I had to be there, but it's also that thing as well. It's like you're not black enough sometimes, or whatever you are seen as half. And I know that's because I don't use the term half caste anymore because of that. But especially men, I have a lot of men being like, there's nothing black about you. And I'm like, whoa.
Is that black men or?
Black men will tell that to me. Yeah, there's nothing black about you. And it's like, you know, I always go, when the war comes, they're not going to want me on their side. So I'm with you a lot. So it's like that kind of dissonance of not knowing where you really fit. But I think understanding that mixed race in itself is its own thing. You're not black, you're not white, you're mixed. And recognizing being mixed as an identity in itself, whatever your mix is something that I think more people need to do, and not this whole half and half thing. Like you're just a whole of something, but it's just something different.
Yeah, and having to pick a side.
Yeah,
or like
fuck that.
Justify one over the other. I feel like even my mum looks at me and she's just like, she doesn't see herself as an immigrant, but I'm like, I'm an immigrant, you're an immigrant, we're immigrants. Like,
that's okay.
We don't belong here, but that's cool.
Yeah,
like,
that's fine.
But I think it's also like
I don't want to be from here.
I don't want to be from this depressing cold island.
Yeah, but can you imagine not having somewhere to go back to?
No, true, exactly. Somewhere you call home.
Exactly. Like I can just jump on a plane and go and see my dad whenever I want. Like how lucky am I? Like I've got a yard on the beach, and we've got a grandparent. When you're not from this country, you've got somewhere. Even if it's not a hot country, you've got somewhere else that you can call home. And that, when people on this planet don't even have one place to call home, it's a huge privilege to be able to call two places home. So I think, you know, we're lucky in that respect.
We are lucky. I'm so lucky that we live in a time where there's so many mixed race people.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, there was none.
There was none, yeah.
You go to America though, people don't know how to place you because they don't have everyone thinks that you're Hispanic.
Yeah.
Because if you're like a light brown color, then because they don't mix there. It's like it's a bit mad.
Yeah. Also, African American people are still trying to understand and accept their heritage in a way.
Well, but I think it is just more that America's very segregated. Like in the UK, you have a lot of mixed children now, which is an amazing thing. But in America, and I don't know maybe for other countries as well, but I just know America there is not a lot of like mixing still.
Yeah, America's pretty.
It's a third world country.
Fucked up. Yeah, I've like anyone who wants to live there. Good luck to you. I could never.
Hell. Yeah.
I could never. But yeah, are you live, love, laughing right now, or the conditions still peak?
God no. It's so peak.
So peak. I feel like the pandemic was like the peakest thing ever.
2022, I was like, right, cool, this is my year. January 1st, I got COVID. I was like, fine.
No, January 1st.
January 1st, I got COVID. Don't know. I went on a date. I went on a date on like just after Christmas, and it was like I hadn't been out all over Christmas. I've just been at home. So I knew I hadn't been out, but I went on a date on the 27th of December in Soho, and I think that's when it got me.
Really?
I'd never had it. I hadn't had it for the whole pandemic. So then January 1st, bang, I was like, okay, cool, this is how we're starting the year. Then, you know, it's just been hard. It's been like, you know, COVID took a long time. I'm not vaccinated. So I had it I was testing positive for 2 weeks. So to try and get into the swing of like new year, new me wasn't really happening when I'm like, can't even breathe. And then, I mean, I'm just kind of, like I said, I've been doing Image Gang for 5 years now, and I'm at a point where I don't really know how much I have left for Image Gang. I think this is another thing as well about kind of being this whole self-made thing. It's the toxicity of not being able to step away from that, because it's like there's a certain expectation that this is you now. You know, people see me, they see Image Gang, and we're linked, and it's like, well, actually, I might not want to do this for much longer.
Yeah.
And I need to be able to walk away from that and know that I have the space to do that in my own head. And that's kind of where I'm at. I've kind of been toying with this idea of how can Image Gang survive without me? Because that's the thing as well, when you have a business and you're like a small business owner, you are the brand, and it's like you can't take your eye off the ball for 1 second because the brand can't live without you. So I'm kind of trying at the moment to get to a place where I don't want to close Image Gang. I want Image Gang to have many more years, but me as Image Gang, I think we're nearing the end.
Are you glad you didn't put your name in the title of the like company name?
No, not that, because it could just still I could call it that, whatever. Like, that's not that. It's just it does, yeah, the name is not so much that, because you can change your name as well.
You can change, yeah.
I've gone through that. I've like, as much times I've been to my friends like, oh, like, what do you think of it? Like, I think I'm going to change it. I'm like, oh, you're not going to change it. You're just bored. Like, just change it.
I used to work for Karen Millen, and I always, because obviously she sold the company like time ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, how does she feel that like people won't know that? Most people won't know that.
Yeah, it's like Jo Malone.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jo Malone. They have her name now. But that's that's selling it, isn't it? But maybe I'll sell it. Maybe I'll hire someone that runs it in a different way. But I definitely see myself going in a different direction very, very soon. Definitely still jewelry, but just kind of more taking everything that I've learned over the last 5 years and applying it to something new. Because if this was a normal job, a 9 to 5, and I'd achieved all the things that I've achieved in Image Gang, I would leave. I've achieved everything I'd want to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
In 4 years, I got it from my living room to Selfridges, and it's like, what? There's nothing more. I never did this to sell it for £1 million. I did it because I wanted to, and I wanted to see how far it would go, and I feel like I've got it to as far as further than I ever dreamed it to go. And it's like, for me to stay in it now, there's nothing. I need something new, and I need a new challenge. And I think that is something that, again, that people don't speak about, is what's your exit strategy here? Because it's going to get to a point where you want to leave, and what happens is you kind of encase yourself into this brand and like create this life for yourself that you actually, it's very difficult to get out of when you want to. And I think that's always very important. And for anyone going into business, how long do you see yourself in it? And when you do see yourself coming out of it, how are you going to get out? What's the next step? That's always something to have in the back of your mind, because it will get to a point when you're done, but you haven't thought about what the next step is, and then you're stuck in something that you don't want to be doing anymore.
Also, 5 years is a long time.
It is a long time. I mean, it's gone, like, it's flown by, but it's actually, yeah, like, I was 27 when I started. I'm 32 now. You think everything that's happened in that time?
Yeah, whole pandemic.
The whole panini.
Also, I feel like when you're young, because you're like always in a new at school, like it's always changing, and then you start working and you do the same job for like years. You're not the same person as you were 5 years ago.
No, of course not. And I think
you've fulfilled what you needed to do. Yeah,
and when I started Image Gang, like, I was in a very different place in my life. Like, my grandma had just died. She was the last family that I had, and it was out of desperation, and I was in such deep mourning and sadness for the loss of my grandma, that it was that pain that was inside of me that what propelled Image Gang. And I'm not hurting the same way that I was 5 years ago. I've grown from that, and my journey through grief has progressed. So to find that motivation and that drive inside of me, it's not there anymore, because I'm not as desperate. I'm not as scared as I was. And
you've become stronger.
I'm stronger. I'm in a better. I've pulled myself out of that. But then to find that deep motivation that comes with getting a brand off the ground and to sustain it, it's just not there anymore inside me, because I'm not in that place in my life anymore.
Yeah.
So that's been something. Again, it's like I never want to be in that place mentally again that I was when I started Image Gang. But that was a huge part of why I was able to get it off the ground. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword, really.
Yeah, it's like sometimes you need to be like in the gutter,
you're back
like
against the wall. Yeah.
To be able to achieve the most.
Pull it out of you. Yeah. Definitely.
Does the Image Gang like represent? Do you ever think, does it remind you of that bad place, or you just think like this has been a journey and I was part of it and now I'm here?
I think that is part of it. Image Gang will always be. The early days of Image Gang, I was still working a 9 to 5. I was kind of sending the Image Gang out from my desk at work, and then I would have to go to the hospital to see my grandma every single day. I then gave up my job to look after my grandma, so I was caring for her full time. And I had all of Image Gang in her living room. I remember the day of her funeral, the family couldn't get into the house because there was just jewelry everywhere, and they were like pissed off at me. But that was what it was, and it was like, and I'll never forget that, and I'll never forget, you know, the day after she died, my mum had passed away when I was a kid. My dad has always lived away. I've not got no brothers or sisters. So my grandma and my granddad were my only family. My granddad died when I was 23. So the day I woke up after my grandma died, I didn't know who I was. I wasn't anyone's granddaughter anymore. I wasn't anyone's daughter. I had no identity, but I was the owner of Image Gang, and Image Gang gave me a reason to get out of bed every morning when I had no other reason. Yeah. And I'll, you know, for that I will forever be grateful. And for everyone who's ever, I don't think people realize that, like, it's jewelry in it. That's what they see. They think they're buying an earring, but actually you gave me a reason to live when I had none. And I will always remember that and look back on that and be so grateful to everyone that supported Image Gang. But, you know, like I said, I'm not there anymore. And it's like I'm at a place where I've got more to give, but maybe just in a different direction.
Yeah, like it's like it's a different chapter now of your life.
Definitely, yeah. Like I'm 32, like I'm gonna be 40 in fucking 5 minutes, and it's like I need to.
You don't look 40 or 30, so.
But do you know what I mean? Like life goes fast, man, and it's like to think how fast those 5 years have gone now. To think in another 5 years, and I'm gonna be 37. Like where do I want to be? And I need to start thinking of myself again rather than the brand. Yeah. And like what I want for myself.
Yeah, and it must be hard to get lost in that when you care something like is literally you.
Yeah.
It's your
you
business.
Get so lost in it. Yeah.
Yeah, and you care so much. If people hate the business, they hate you, or like
they
hate the product.
My god, yeah.
Like,
you have to. As soon as I stopped doing customer service emails, that made life a lot easier because you'd be fighting people. Like I'd be literally beefing people.
Also, the like concept that the customer's always right is fucked up.
No, they act crazy. They act because if I saw you on road, you're not talking to me like that. So
behind a keyboard, you think you're the big man.
Take your necklace and shove up your ass.
Thank you for sharing about your grandparents as well, because I was like super close to my grandma and she died at the beginning of the pandemic, thank God, because it would have been horrible.
Awful. Yeah, I always think that if they were still here.
Like, in the old person's home. Yeah. And so I don't think they even explained to them what was happening, but like I think she just like got the vibes and was like,
I'm out.
I'm checking out. I don't need this anymore. And I got to see her before she died, like right at the beginning. But it was like, I don't know, my grandma was like my dad. So she was like my anchor, and I'm so grateful. And she'd always say to me, grandparents love their grandchildren more than their real children. And I believed her. Definitely. And my mum would be like, fuck you. Because they had a really bad relationship. But I was like, no, I feel the love. I think
they can make right all the wrongs that they made with their, because they don't know, no one knows what they're doing when they have kids. You think about it, they ain't got a clue. Like, they wouldn't. And it's like with grandchildren, it's like a second chance to them, innit?
Because I feel like I saw my mum being like really strict, and then my grandma was like the cool, like good cop, bad cop vibes.
Yeah, and you learn a lot from them. I think as women, it's like how we identify and what we see as womanhood, and those kind of key markers that we see in ourselves as what defines a woman are so different from what it was for them. You know, like my grandma worked and stuff, but you know, she had 3 kids at 26 and was married at 23, and like she was just as much as a woman as I am. But you know, the definition of a woman has changed massively.
So
but
much.
Doesn't make you any less or more of a woman just because whether you want to stay at home with your kids or whether you want to go out and work and not have kids. Like, we're all women. And I think slightly I have an issue with things like on days like today with International Women's Day, where is the representation for the women who aren't choosing to do girl boss?
Exactly.
It's been very much hijacked by that again. And I think we kind of forget sometimes the women who are doing more traditional women stuff, caring, nursing, being mums. Like, I could never do that. I could
being
do
a mum is fucking tiring. I'm not that I am a mum, but I'm like imagining it, and I'm like,
I'd be awful.
And how do you ever have time for yourself? Like,
yeah, exactly. You're superheroes. Like, you're fully superheroes, but for some reason, again, it's the women that seem to be operating more in masculine worlds that are celebrated on days like today. And actually, you should celebrate the mum. We need to celebrate the mums, because I feel low-key the patriarchy's taken over in National Women's Day.
Like, I just want to be a stay-at-home mum. Like,
I just want to be stay-at-home.
Yeah. I don't have to go outside ever. I
don't want to do the mum bit. I just stay at home.
But also, I just think like it's not all those things that women or like housewives do, mums do, is like it's because it's just done. It's men are never going to recognize it.
My grandma was sick. Like, my grandma was house was spotless every day. She worked, house was spotless all the time, cooking, cleaning, loving. Like, never getting annoyed, just always happy, loving. Like, you're just amazing. Like, I'm fuming and a mess all the time. Like, I'd be shit.
I want to go home and just like watch TikTok for hours.
Yeah, I haven't done the washing up that's been in the sink for 3 days. Like, I'm a terrible woman.
But yeah, like your grandparents, as soon as you need them, they're there. Or like, it's a beautiful thing. Were you always surrounded by women?
Yep.
Growing
So
up?
my grandma was one of 3. My mum was one of 3. But then I think I was one. So I was an only child, but I had 2 cousins who were boys. So I was like the first girl to be brought up around boys. So all the women in the family were older, but I was kind of like roughing it out with the boys growing up, which is good. Like, you know, again, it's like I'd play that to my advantage, being the only girl. How can I like get away with more than they can? How can I get the last donut because I'm the only girl? Like, and use that, like, and like play like the little frail girl sometimes, and to get your own way. Like, I'd always do that.
Also, that probably like prepared you for being
in a male dominated space. Definitely. Yeah, I knew how to play men from day, because again, I had my granddad as well. I had him wrap around my little finger. I had my uncle wrap around my little finger because I was the only of that generation. I was the only girl, so I knew how to play the game.
That's how you need to. That's basically what you need to do. Because I was always surrounded by women. So like working in a male dominated industry, like I've had to like learn to respect men, which I never have.
I mean, my granddad was my dad in it, because my dad wasn't around, so I had to respect my granddad.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I get boxed in the face. But you respect them to a point of knowing where you can get away with and what you can do, and like how to get a fiver out of them here and there and things like that.
Yeah. How to get whatever you wanted. That's really interesting. And to finish up on International Women's Day, what do you think is a beautiful thing about being a woman, and what's like a really challenging thing that we need to recognize more?
I think a beautiful thing about being a woman is the shared experiences that we all have, and I just think it's like this unspoken thing when you meet another woman. It's just you just get each other. And there's just things that a man would never understand, like biologically, mentally, like spiritually. We're all connected, and I love working with women, because there's just things that don't have to be said, and it's just implied with everything that we do. I think that we're sick.
Fucking sick. We're also so strong.
We're so strong. So peng.
Just geniuses. We can be like a strong and beautiful and funny.
Yeah, the multifacetedness, if that's a word, of multifacetism. I don't know what word. It's fascism. Of being a woman. That is it. The multifacetedness of being a woman is, I think, the most beautiful thing, that we can just be anything that we want to be. And like, you know, we're lucky that we live in a society that we can, because there are parts of the world that's still not allowed. So we're lucky that we, as women in this country, we are able to operate in that way. And I think the hardest thing about being a woman, I don't know. I wouldn't change it. You know, whatever's hard, I'll take that. I'll take that any day over being a man.
I know what you mean. Yeah, like I will like bitch and moan till the end, but I'd always want to be a woman. Always.
A woman of colour,
always as well. Even though you like see how society is made for men.
There was I was listening to a podcast, the Stephen Bartlett podcast, and they were saying to people, you know, people that have had really terrible things happen in their life, would you change it? And 98% of people said no. And it's like, you know, everything that's bad about being a woman is what made you the woman that you are. Exactly. So it just is what it is.
Yeah, I always think like, how would my life be if like that trauma wasn't there?
Yeah.
Like the flip the switch and like everything went normally and I had a nuclear family. And
boring.
I'd be
so boring.
I'd be boring as fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been so nice chatting to you.
Thanks.
Thank you.